So we're going to look at adding fractions together. So how do we add fraction pieces? Okay, so we have a 1/2 fraction shown in red, and here we have a 1/4 fraction shown in green. And this is the answer here. I mean, this is the solution to 1/2 plus 1/4. Okay, so when we put those together, there's our solution. Okay, so how do we express the solution? How do we count the solution? Okay, so when I add this up, my numerator should count how many pieces I have. So it looks like I have 2 pieces, so 1 plus 1. But the problem is, which piece am I counting? Because I cannot count two different things the same. Okay, that's not how we count things. We just cannot count this piece and this piece the same. So what do? How do I count this up? How do I add? Adding is counting. So how do I add this up so that I get the answer here? And it looks like this answer, looks like to be about 3/4 full. So how do I get this answer then? Well, if I'm going to add or count, what's really important is that I'm counting the same thing. Or I have to have fractions that have the same size pieces. I need the same denominator. The denominator determines how big the fraction is. I need the exact same size pieces. Otherwise, when I count things, I run into this problem. I cannot count this up. I cannot count 2 in the numerator. In the denominator, like I've seen people try to do this. I say add the top, add the bottom. Well, this doesn't make sense because although I may have 2 things, first of all, I don't have 2 of the same thing. The other thing is all of a sudden I changed from halves and quarters to 1/6 pieces, which is even smaller. So it's like really tiny. 1/6 pieces would be little, tiny pieces, right? So these are clearly not, that's a 1/6 piece here. Okay, that's clearly not what we're counting. Okay, so this is not possible to add up things like this. What we need to do is we need to make this an equivalent fraction with the same size fraction. Okay, so or we need a common denominator. So what I can do here is I can do this. I can make this 1/2 fraction into a 2/4 fraction. Okay, so if I do this, I have the same. Now I have the same size pieces, so I can actually count these the same. In fact, I can say I have 3, and how big are those pieces? Well, that's the denominator, 3 1/4 pieces. Okay, so when I add my picture together, it's going to look like this. So that then justifies my answer of 3/4. Well, how do I show this mathematically? Okay, well, what did I do here? I took this 1/2 and I did it in groups of 2. Well, groups of 2 means I did groups of 2 for what I'm counting, the parts, and I did groups of 2 for the whole. So it looks like this. So I start with my 1/2 fraction. So I have my 1/2 fraction, and what I did was, and this is what I'm physically doing, I'm chopping it up into 2 groups for parts and 2 groups for wholes. Okay, so then I end up with plus 1/4 like that. So now I have my picture matches my algebra. Okay, so I'm just going to rewrite this. So this is now the same as 2 1/4 fractions plus 1 1/4 fraction. And clearly I have then, well, I have 1, 2, 3, yeah. I have 3. And how big are those fraction pieces? Well, they don't change, so I don't add up the denominator. The denominator stays the same. Once I have the common denominator, I just add the numerators together. So there it is. Okay? So I do this whenever I have fractions that don't match, I just basically have to make them match. So here I have a 1/2 fraction plus a 1/3 fraction. Okay, so plus my 1/3 fraction. The pictures aren't that good, but this is the best we can. So there's my 1/3 fraction here, and I'll do my 1/2 fraction in red. Okay, so that's that one there. And my 1/3 fraction I'll do in green. Okay, so there's my 1/3 fraction. And I know my answer is going to be equal to, well, I have a 1/2 plus a 1/3. So it's going to look like this. Okay, so there's my 1/2 fraction. In green I have my 1/3. Okay, so this is definitely the solution. Now it looks like I have, it's hard to tell, but it looks like I have about 5/6. Okay, well, how can I show the answer of 5/6? Well, I can split up this fraction into 1/6 pieces, because the common multiple, and that's one way we do it, because we're going to do groupings. So groupings are times, and times are multiples. If I look at the multiples of this, the common multiple is 6. So I can do 3 groups over here. Okay, groups of 3. Yeah, so that means I have 3. I times the top by 3 and the bottom by 3 to get 3/6, and that's an equivalent fraction to 1/2. Plus, I'm going to do this into groups of 2. Okay, so I'm going to have, and maybe I'm going to show the steps in here. Okay, so this becomes 1/2, and I did groups of 3. So times 3 times 3 plus my 1/3 fraction. I'm going to do groups of 2. I've done here, so I'm going to do times 2 times 2. And what I end up with here then is, and my picture confirms it, my picture doesn't lie, I have 3/6 in red, and in the green, I have 2/6. Well, yeah, that seems to justify if I kind of split this up. Yeah, that's going to be, I've got 3 parts out of 6, 2 parts out of 6, and that's going to give me a total of, okay, that should give me a total of, and my answer looks to confirm it, right? It looks like I have, yeah, that's going to be 5 parts. So I add up the number of pieces. There's 5 pieces, and the size of the pieces doesn't change. So I have 1/6 pieces. So that's how I go about doing this. So what I would like you to do is I want you to show me a picture. I want you to show me the multiplier, the multiplying factors involved to get the common denominator. Okay, and then show me how you get the equation with the common denominator and the final answer. So it's really important that you show me all these steps, because this is what I'll be looking for. This is what I'm going to be checking when I look at your assessments.